I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what I want to talk about with this video. I've filmed this voiceover 3 times, and each time I just wasn't happy with it and deleted it. There was one time that I talked about more mental health stuff, but then got scared to share it. Then there was a time that I wanted to talk about public space and private space, but I felt like it was a little bit too political. And I don't want to ever do that on this channel. I don't want to get too political. I don't want to be exclusive, and I don't want to be polarizing. So I deleted that footage. But that leaves me with not much else going on. I suppose I could talk about what has been going on in my life recently, if that is interesting. Go down in the comments and tell me if that's interesting, and I will, in real time, change what I'm about to say. So top the head stream of consciousness. Is anybody else out there very self-conscious of their laugh? My laugh is very airy. It's very breezy. It's not very throaty. It's not very guttural. That sometimes has gotten me in trouble because people have seen it as disingenuous. No, it's not disingenuous. It's true that I don't laugh very often, but when I do, I do. It just sounds like I don't. So I'm trying to change how I laugh. It's harder than you think it would be. Let's see another thing that's going on. The art store that I frequent has stopped selling, or will be stopping selling, the colored pencils I use for all of my art projects. Apparently Prismacolor, the company itself, takes too long to deliver to this art store that I've been going to for about 15 years. And so this art store has decided that they're just not going to sell Prismacolor colored pencils anymore. And that is heartbreaking to me. You know, I've used these pencils for 12 years. They are what I am, and it deeply hurts to know that there's one less vendor out there that's willing to sell them, because all the other places that you would go, like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or places like that, they sell them, but they sell such specific colors. They don't sell all the colors. So I'm probably gonna have to start ordering them online, and I really don't want to do that, because when I need a color, I need a color. It's really hard to judge when I'm gonna need something. It just kind of happens that I need something. I'm gonna have to really look at my art tool consumption a lot different now, and that's gonna take some time to learn. So if videos about coloring becomes slower than they already are, which I know is as slow as molasses, and I'm sorry for that. I am trying. This is like my first time doing YouTube, so I'm not on the ball right now, and this blow, this change of where I'm getting my tools, is also another blow. If you have patience enough with me to stick around through these uncertain times, I greatly appreciate it, and your support does hit my heart and stays there, so thank you. Let's see another thing that's been going on recently. I entered in 3 of these Oceanica drawings that I've done. I entered in this one. I'll throw a picture up here. This one, it's a little bit older. It's one of the older ones that I've made, but I still really like it. And I've turned in this one that you're currently watching being colored. I'm just going to show you what it looks like when it's completely finished, because after the coloring, what's next is just me re-inking, or inking on top of the colored pencils to bring the black lines back out. And so you can already get a gist of what it looks like by the end of this video, so I don't feel bad about kind of sneaky showing you ahead of time what it's going to look like. But I entered those into the state fair, and I am extremely anxious about that. I have separation anxiety from them, as well as just, please, I hope somebody out there likes them anxiety. It's an anxiety that is adding to the anxiety that I have from entering in my siren, this picture, to the local library for a comic contest. Been feeling a lot of separation anxiety from that. For anybody out there that makes things and then loans them out or sells them, do you get separation anxiety from the things that you make? Or is it easier for you to let go of stuff? Because I find it incredibly difficult to let go of things, but if I hold on to everything, then, like I kind of touched on before, it dies, because I make it and then I hide it, I squirrel it away, and then no one else gets to see it, and then the drawing dies. So it's extremely important that these drawings I make get shown, that people see them, that people can interact with them, because there's no growth whatsoever if I just hide them. I won't get any critique, I won't get any feedback from anybody about them. if I just do that. So I used to be able to show my work a lot back in 2014, 2015, but since then I've been very secretive about my work, and I'm trying really hard not to be, because that doesn't do anybody any good, despite how scary it is. Actually, if you think about it, the only thing that it does good is my fear. It feeds my fear. It gives it fuel to burn and become even deeper rooted. So even though it's painful, I gotta take that fire and let it out and let it almost consume me, so that when the next time comes that I share, my skin will be hardened to it and have a thicker layer to fight back that fear. So anybody out there that's terrified to show stuff or very anxious about showing things to people, take account of that fear. Know that you have that fear. Acknowledge that it's there to protect you, but then say, thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to protect me and wanting to keep me safe. But at this time, I want to try doing it this other way. I acknowledge your presence. I thank you for your presence, but I want to try this way instead, just to see what happens. That way, the fear gets acknowledged and you can feel it, but you also can tell that fear that it doesn't have a hold on you, that you will allow it to express itself, but you're not going to allow it to take control of yourself. And that's something that I'm struggling with, but I'm working really hard to try to work with. And it's taken me 6 years. It takes time. And I used to be so frustrated with myself for needing that time. I used to be so frustrated. I used to be like, why can't you just show what you draw? Other people can do it. It's super easy for them. Why is it so hard for you to get out there, for you to talk to people, for you to just interact with people? Why is it so hard? And I used to beat myself up about it so much, to the point where even if I had a good day and I felt like I could share, I wouldn't be able to. If you hear barking in the background, sorry. It's feeding time, and the puppy is very vocal about his food. Very vocal. And my room is right underneath the dining room where they get fed. So I'm very intimate with the food patterns that happen in this house, because I can hear everything that happens in the kitchen, the dining room especially. Sometimes it really pushes me over the edge. It really bothers me. But at the same time, I'm not ready to move out. I'm not in a good mental space or financial space to move out at this time. So I have to learn to just accept it and let my life move on from it, not think too much about how noisy it is, because that doesn't get me anywhere either. I've been talking a lot, or at least I've mentioned a couple times in videos. Outside of videos, I talk about this a lot because it's very close to my mind about a lot of things, especially now that I'm so focused on the idea of sharing work, is Barth's death of the author. I don't want to get too in-depth here, but I would love to make a well-informed video about the death of the author. And maybe that's something that's coming up, because it's something that's very important to me, and not talking about it here, I feel like I'm just not sharing as much as I want to share. So I'll just be really, really brief about it. Basically, from what I can remember, I have lots of textbooks and lots of old papers over it, so I'll be better informed next time. So if I say something incorrect here, I'm sorry. Feel free to correct me. I would love to learn from my mistakes. But the death of the author is the idea of, after a piece is made, an artwork piece, or something that is made that then is shared to the world or an audience, the author has to die. What do I mean by the author has to die? I don't mean like they have to die like Van Gogh die. What I mean is all the thoughts and opinions and all of the personal connections that the author has to that piece of work ends when the work finishes. And the work then becomes the property of the public, or the property of those who view it. It's no longer nurtured through the mind of the artist. It now becomes nurtured through the eyes of the viewer. And it's something that I've always found very fascinating, and something that I've found very relevant to how I view my work. I'm done with a piece of work, it almost feels like I'm looking at a corpse. I've poured all of the life that I could into it. It has lived by being made, and through the process of being made, and then it gracefully dies to me. And the only way that it has life breathed back into it is if people breathe their own thoughts and their own ideas into it. Online, I've been seeing a lot of video essays about death of the author and about Barths, and I'm gonna have to say I'm in that camp. I'm in that camp of believing in death of the author. Of course, not in like the Virginia Woolf way death of the author, but you know, like when viewing a work made by somebody, you can't rely on the opinions of the person who made it. You shouldn't make your judgments based off of the judgments of the person who made it, because then you're just perpetuating this piece of work being stationary, being static, perpetuating the static nature of it, instead of giving it the dynamic nature, which brings it joy and brings it interest. That's why I really, really, really hate artist statements. Whenever I'm about to share something, or when I'm on social media and asks to share a little bit about yourself, I hate artist statements, because it's me telling everybody how to look at my art, or at least that's how I view it. No, it's like, oh, this is who I am, this is what I make, this is how I make it. It gives away all the secrets. And how fun is that? You know, if you're playing a video game like a Legend of Zelda game or something, and your big brother comes in, or big sister, or big them, they, whoever they are, or maybe a younger them, they, you know, or a friend, you know, if somebody comes in and says, oh, this is how you defeat this temple, this is how you do this puzzle. Like, how fun is that? No fun at all. There's no joy of discovery. There's no joy of making a mistake. There's no joy of learning, of seeing, of doing, when somebody just gives you all the answers. And that's why whenever I'm confronted with that, tell us about yourself, or tell us about your work box online, or even in person when somebody's standing in front of you and says, tell me about your work, I always get exasperated. I don't express the exasperation, because, you know, they're just asking an honest question. But I don't want to give away my thoughts in the fear of tainting their thoughts. So usually what I do when somebody says, hey, what does this mean? I usually say, well, what do you think it means? Spinning it around on them. What are your thoughts about this? And sometimes they say, oh, you know, they're nothing. What do you think? And I counterbalance with, well, I've already expressed what I think. I've already expressed an idea. I've already expressed a question by making this work. This work is now open to other people. It's a question to other people. It's a challenge to other people to think. It's a challenge to other people to see and to experience something of their own. And I don't have the heart to take that discovery away from somebody. I refuse to take that away from somebody. And that exasperates a lot of people. It frustrates a lot of people that I've discovered in the past. It does that. But my opinion doesn't matter once it's on the wall, once it's in the frame, once it's ready to go. It's grown up. My child has grown up. It has its own legs, and it's ready to challenge the world. It's ready to ask the world the tough questions. And I don't want to take the voice away from that. Anyway, that was my not so brief view on Death of the Author. I really, really can get way more in depth of it. It's a field that I love talking about. I have books on it and articles on it and thesis papers all about it. So I would love to just bore your brain out by talking about Barthes. He's fantastic. Another person I would love to bore your brain out is Foucault, specifically panopticism. Oof, I can never say that right the first time. Panopticism. Bleh. I would love to bore your brain out about that, too, if anybody is interested in hearing about that. I find that to be a very enthralling subject. I haven't read any Nietzsche yet. I do have a book about Nietzsche that I think is going to be my next book that I'm reading. Right now, I'm reading 3 books. I'm reading Peter and the Sword of Mercy, like I mentioned before, from the Peter and the Starcatcher series. I'm trying to finish Tipping of the Velvet by Sarah Waters. It's in its 3rd part, and it's kind of hard to read. I get so frustrated with the main character because she keeps doing all these frustrating things. We could talk about that if anybody's interested in that kind of book. It is erotica, specifically lesbian erotica, so it's a bit different. Probably not everyone's cup of tea. And the last book I'm trying to read and failing miserably at is Pride and Prejudice. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I've never read a Jane Austen book, but I'm reading this one because everyone talks about it. There's so many movies about it, so I thought I would give it a shot. But I'm gonna have to say that Charlotte Bronte is a much better writer, in my opinion. She's much more interesting, and her stories are much more interesting. I'm gonna read this Pride and Prejudice book and then take a break from Jane Austen because I can't stand just all the etiquette. I guess would be a way of putting it. All the etiquette is just too much for me. And I wish they would just get to the point of what they want to say. You know, Jane Eyre was fantastic. I loved Jane Eyre. So if I'm going to read another book in that period, I think I'm going to do a Charlotte Bronte book. I just haven't decided which one next. Probably Villette. Or Valet, I'm not sure how to say that. Another boarding school book, so, you know, might be interesting, might be some dark academia vibes that I could dig deeply into and just be that pompous about. I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. Just a lot of separation anxiety and a lot of death. Anxiety and death. How enthralling. But I'm looking at my camera here, and I do only have the 8GB memory disk in there, so it doesn't hold as much memory. So I'm gonna have to end it off here. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic whatever time of day that you are having. Here, it's very smoggy, it's morning time, it's 8 a.m. Very smoggy from all the fires that are nearby, so the last couple days the sun has been a burnt orange color. It's been quite interesting. I can throw up a picture here if you'd like. I've thrown up some pictures on my Instagram about it, but I'm going to go upstairs and say hi to my mom, and we're gonna go on our morning walk. It's going to be fun, as it always is, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things as we always do. So, peace sign, thank you, and I will see you. I will be here next week, and hopefully you will be too. That's what I wanted to say. Alright, goodbye. Oh, and also, speaking about death of the author, I'll leave a link below to a great video essay that Lindsay Ellis does about this subject. Go down there and you'll see it. It's a great video. I hope you all like it because you should. Okay,